Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Have you ever had bad luck? Have you ever had awful things happen to you? Really often due to no fault of your own. Well, whether it's a medical infirmity or whether it is being violated by people who consider you prey or any number of things, bad things can happen to good people. And I am very, very proud to introduce to you my guest today, Dr. Lycka, who wrote The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. I will repeat that. Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. And he wrote the book along with Harriet Tinka, who is also a survivor. And the subtitle of the book is Two Survivors Reveal the 13 Golden Pearls They Have Discovered. So welcome, Dr. Lycka.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Duffy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, so much. So tell us who you are and why you wrote this book.
Sure, I'll tell you. Let's go back to the beginning. I was a world-class cosmetic surgeon. I was leader of the pack. I did Botox, I did fillers, I did liposuction. I did all these things people like to look better and feel better. And it was 2003, and I was walking with my wife in Disneyland. And my wife turned to me and said, "What's wrong with you, hon?" You know, I was taken aback, Dr. Duffy. For once in my life, I hadn't said anything wrong. I hadn't even done anything wrong. I hadn't even thunk anything wrong. But she was persistent. She said, "What's wrong, hon?" I said, "I don't have the faintest idea what you're talking about." She said, "Listen to your foot." I said, "What do you mean? That's the funniest statement you've ever said." She said, "Well, listen to it anyhow." Well, my right foot had suddenly and mysteriously developed a right foot drop. It came out of the blue. It was hot. It was 30 degrees. It was Disneyland. It was humid. So I said to my wife, "I think it's because of the humidity and the heat." And she said, "No, I don't think that explains it." She said, "Did you have a stroke?" I said, "Dear, you're a doctor. I'm a doctor. That's not how strokes present. This is something that's totally different than that." She said, "Well, when you get back, you better get this checked out." Well, Dr. Duffy, when your wife tells you to get something checked out, what do?
You listen.
You listen. If you know what's good for you, you listen. Well, that started my odyssey. I saw hundreds of doctors. They did CAT scans. They did brain scans. They did MRIs. They did scans. And you know what they showed at the end of the day, Dr. Duffy?
What?
Absolutely nothing.
Ah.
They said I had a slipped disc or a brain tumor or something that they could equate it to, but they found nothing. And when a doctor finds nothing, what he does is more tests and more tests and more tests because he wants to find the answer. And at the end of it, there still was nothing to be found. So they decided collectively to send me to a neurologist. A neurologist is a brain doctor. He's the guy that's supposed to have all the pictures to everything that's gone on. He's supposed to have all the answers. So I walked in and I said, "Hi." He said, "Hi back. You better be sitting down when I tell you this." I said, "Why? I have a dropped right foot." He said, "No, you don't. You have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Get your affairs in order. In 6 months, you're going to be dead."
Oh.
I was shocked when I heard that and a little taken aback. So I asked him, "Is there a way to prove this diagnosis?" He said, "Of course, on autopsy."
Wow. He didn't mince words, did he, Dr. Allen?
No, he didn't. He didn't have any bedside manner. I think he was the brother of Dr. House on TV or something like that.
Yeah, yes.
He had no bedside manner. So I shot back. I'm not going to die to prove you wrong. So I walked out. I slammed the door. I was angry. And then, you know, when you go through something like this, Dr. Duffy, you go through stages. And Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote a book on death and dying. And she detailed the stages a person goes through when they're dying. She said the first stage is anger. And I was angry. I could bite the head off nails. I was angry, fuming mad at this turn of events. I went through bargaining. Oh, God, please don't let this happen. I'll do anything if you don't let this happen. Yeah. I went through denial. And I worked 12, 14, 16, 18 hours a day. I said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to have something to show for the end of it. Certainly, I don't have anything wrong. But I knew in my heart of hearts there was something wrong. I had a dropped right foot. It wasn't explained yet. And then finally, there's depression, Dr. Duffy. When you go through something like this, you get depressed. You wake up in bed, you stare at the ceiling, and you wonder if you should really be doing anything. Because really, the world has no meaning. Have you ever been depressed, Dr. Duffy?
I have.
It's a terrible time. Everything's black. You can't eat. You can't sleep. Yeah. Everything has no meaning.
Right.
So what I did next is I went to my wife and I said, dear, I don't know what's wrong. Do you have any idea what's wrong with me? She says, I haven't got the faintest idea, she said. But you're a smart doctor. You can figure it out. I said, dear, thank you for the vote of confidence. I just saw hundreds of doctors and they couldn't figure it out. And yet you expect me to have it. Well, you know, back in 2003, something new was invented, Dr. Duffy. You might have heard about it. It's called the internet. Have you ever heard of the internet?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, I think it was invented by Al Gore or something like that.
Yeah.
But the point is, this new wonderful thing was invented. Back then, it was very primitive then, and our computers had no information. We didn't have Dr. Google back then. We didn't have Dr. Yahoo back then. What we had were dial-on connections, where your phone connected to another phone, and it went ring-a, ring-a, ring-a for about 15 minutes, and finally, it connected with the other phone, and it got in touch with things. And my friends were nerds, so they were able for me to get through the internet. You know, the internet is the most beautiful place. It's full of all the world's information, yet it's like a library that's full of the best books, yet it's full of garbage cans. And you can't tell garbage cans from the books. So it's very, very hard to find the truth on the internet.
Yes.
So I searched and searched and searched, and I found a doctor that had a story very similar to mine. His name was David Martz. He lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And just like me, he developed a foot drop, but he got worse much more rapidly. He was on his deathbed as a result of his diagnosis within months. And everybody loved David, so they were coming up to say goodbye to him. And a doctor from Texas, a Dr. Harvey, came up. And he looked at David and he said, David, there's something wrong with this picture. I don't think you have ALS. I don't think you have Lou Gehrig's disease, he said. I think what you have is something called chronic Lyme's disease. I think you're bitten by a tick, and it's mimicking ALS. And he said, if I'm right, I can start you on treatment and make you better. David said, well, what do I have to lose? I'm dying. The doctor from Texas says, okay, let's start. And within 2 weeks, a miracle happened, Dr. Duffy. He was like Lazarus. He had risen from the dead. He had just done amazing stuff. He just was back to normal. So I knew I had to get in touch with David. So I phoned every hospital in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I met up with David at the Methodist Hospital. You see, any doctor can catch any doctor if he just looks around and introduces himself as a doctor and gets in touch. Well, I was able to get in touch with Dr. Martz, and we talked for hours. And he said, can you come down and see me? And I said, when? He said, right now. Well, it was our Thanksgiving weekend and that weekend. And I said, David, I can't. My wife's invited 50 people over. He said, well, aren't there any planes in Canada? He wasn't going to let me get off that easily. So I went to my wife and I apologized. I said, wife, I'm not going to be home for Thanksgiving. She said, why? You always seem to be away. I said, well, there's a doctor in Colorado Springs who claims he has something that can help me. And I think I should go down and see him. She said, well, let me pack your bags for you. She said, I'll take care of the 50 people. Don't worry about that, she said. But she said, let me pack your bags and I'll even drive you to the airport. Well, I got on a plane from Edmonton to Denver. It was a beautiful flight, 2.5 hours long. And then I got on a flight from Denver to Colorado Springs. It was only 15 minutes long, but it was a little puddle jumper. It was the flight from hell. It was only 15 minutes long, but the plane would climb and then it would rapidly fall 100 feet.
What you
then it would
went
climb
through.
Again and drop another 100 feet. And then it would climb again and drop 200 feet.
Just like your right foot.
Just like my right foot. You got it. It was like a metaphor for what was going on in my life.
Wow.
Well, at the end of that flight, I crawled off the flight, and there was David on the tarmac to meet me. You see, all the security precautions had not come into effect yet from 9/11. So I was able to meet David. He said, Dr. Lycka, you don't look so good. I said, David, I don't feel so good. He said, well, guess what? You're going through a metaphor of what's gone through your life. And he said, let's talk. And we talked for hours. And he said something miraculous at the end of it. He said, I think history is repeating itself. And he said, I think I could start you on treatment and make you better. So that he did. And that's why I'm alive and thriving 18 years later.
So Dr. Alan Lycka so then did you also have Lyme's disease?
Yes, I had chronic Lyme's disease.
Oh, isn't that something? Wow. And I just want to clarify the right foot drop. That means when you're walking, your right foot just clunks. It just clunks.
It slaps on the pavement with each step you're taking. Slap, slap, slap. It just wouldn't lift up. You see, our brain is designed that doesn't happen. It automatically makes our foot lift up.
Yeah, doesn't lift. Oh, my word. Oh, yes. So how long did it take you to be cured of that?
You know, I don't think I've ever been cured. I still have my drop right foot. I wear a right foot brace, but it doesn't bother me. And I become, my right hand started to become involved so that I couldn't use that. But, I learned to be left-handed. So I'm even better with my left hand than I am with my right hand. And as a surgeon, I could do my surgeries with my left hand. I didn't need my right hand.
That is incredible. So you can walk okay with a brace?
Absolutely.
Isn't that something? And you learn to be left-handed. My goodness. And you and Harriet Tinka wrote this incredible book, 13 Golden Pearls.
Yes, let me tell you a little bit about the book. When I decided that I had a second chance on life, I decided to give back. And one of the things I started to sponsor was a competition called the Women of Distinction Award for the YWCA. And that was an award to honor women in our society because women do not get the kudos they still need. And it's unfortunate that way. So I sponsored an event, and this lady by the name of Harriet Tinka applied for an award, the Turning Points Award. You see, Harriet had gone through a catastrophe, through a very difficult time. She was a beautiful, gorgeous model walking the cat ropes of New York, but she decided that she didn't want to do that any longer. So she decided she was going to be an accountant. So she went to the University of Calgary to learn to be an accountant, and she met a very hostile person there, a person that ended up kidnapping her, stabbing her, and leaving her for dead. And during her rehab, Harriet met a young girl by the name of Amber, who had a very tragic story herself. She was in a wheelchair, and she was wheeling around, and yet she was so happy. She was so joyous. She lost both of her parents in the car accident that left her paralyzed. But she said, Harriet, you can't go on living a life that's dour. You have to tell your story. So Harriet applied for this award. And she, at the award, she said, Dr. Lycka, can I buy you lunch? I said, of course, Harriet. And we talked, and she said, we have to put our story out there. We have to get our story out to everybody and let them understand what our story is all about. And I said, great, let's do that. And she said, okay. So we started writing, and we'd meet at coffee shops. We'd meet over lunch, and we wrote our book in such a way that's a rather unique thing. There's a dialogue in our book where she's talking and I'm talking. And at the beginning of every chapter is a story that tells you all about the beautiful thing. And each chapter is based on a golden pearl. Now, let me talk a little bit about golden pearls. Pearls actually exist in nature. And what they are is a little grain of sand gets inside of an oyster and it irritates the oyster, making a beautiful, gorgeous pearl. Now, there are golden pearls. They exist only in the South Pacific. And they're so rare that a single solitary perfect golden pearl costs upwards of $10,000. So they're beautiful things. But what Harriet and I found perfect golden pearls in each and every one of us. And that's why we put the 13 golden pearls and strung them together in a necklace for our book. So people will understand that and do very well with that.
Dr. Alan Lycka, may I just very quickly go through the 13 pearls?
Absolutely.
The good news for everyone is that Dr. Lycka is coming back next week. And so we will please tune in and tell your friends. So we will hear more from Dr. Lycka, and we're halfway finished with part 1 of our series. So let me just quickly look at love is number 1 pearl. Inspiration is number 2 pearl. And then you look at struggles and developing our strengths. You look at Seabiscuit. I'm sorry, in the tape. Never mind. Okay.
Let me go through that for you.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you. Perfect.
Our first chapter is love, because love is a natural place to start. The second one is inspiration. Third one is victory. Victory is a very important thing, and we all need victory in our life. The fourth one is vulnerability, which is very important. The fifth one is intention or purpose, which is very important. Non-negotiables are golden pearl number 6. Forgiveness is golden pearl number 7. Golden pearl number 8 is attitude. Number 9 is thankfulness. Number 10 is tenacity. Number 11 is laughter. Number 12 is enthusiasm. Number 13 is empowerment. Those are the 13 golden pearls. And we even throw in a extra golden pearl of fear, because we all must overcome fear to be strong and whole in this day and age. So those are the 13 and golden pearls, and the bonus golden pearl to make a necklace beautifully endowed for people these days.
And since we have so little time, what would be the highlights? What would you like most to let people know about how they can overcome their unfortunate, unhappy circumstances?
Well, I think everybody has to realize it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. If you're given lemons, you can wallow in the fact that you're given lemons, or you can make lemonade. I think making lemonade is one of the most important things you can do. Turn your sorrows into something that's there. And it's the down parts in our life that makes us understand the peaks of joy and happiness that we have there. Without those down times, we would never truly understand the joy and inspiration that we have. So we must move forward with the joy, inspiration, and everything we have. Remember, it's not what happens to you. That it's what you do with what happens. That was a saying of Epictetus, who was a sophist in ancient Greeks, and he was a slave that became a free man. So he knew exactly what it took to overcome his dissatisfaction. And let me tell a little story, if that's okay, so that everybody can understand it. This is based on my golden pearl number 12, enthusiasm. There was a carpenter by the name of Fred, and Fred was tired. He had worked for the same company for 45 years, and he said, I don't want to do this any longer. So he went to his boss, gave the keys to his boss, and said, Boss, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm not going to work any longer. The boss was taken aback. He said, Fred, you're my number one carpenter. You've helped me build every house in my fleet. He said, I understand you want to quit, but could you do one more thing for me before you go? You're the only person with the skills to do it. And Fred said, of course, boss, I've loved it here. This is the only job I've ever had. I've truly loved this job and I want to do something nice for you. He said, okay, can you build me just one more house? Just one more house before you go? And Fred said, of course I will. But Fred's heart wasn't into it. He dragged his butt to work every day. He only worked a couple of hours, whereas in the old day, he used to work 12, 24 hours when it was necessary. He just didn't have his heart in it. But at the end of it, a miracle happened. The house passed inspection. So he went back to his boss and said, Boss, I'm done. Here's the keys to the last house I've ever built. The boss said, okay, Fred, just wait. We're going to have a party. He called everybody in the office, called everybody together. They popped the champagne. They had caviar. They had a great party. And then he said, okay, everybody gather around. This is Fred's last day. Fred has been one of my best workers. I wish everybody would work like he did. And Fred, here's a special present for you. Here's the keys to the last house that you ever did so that you can enjoy it with all the joy that you worked for me all those years. Now, I tell you that for one reason. Enthusiasm is not a Monday thing. It's not a Wednesday thing. It's not a Friday thing. It's the game changer that if you bring to the game every day of your life, you truly will make it a better place. You will make the world a better place. Mahatma Gandhi said, if you're a street sweeper, if you try to be the best street sweeper you can, that world will be a better place. And I think everybody should realize that. And I'm going to make a little challenge to your audience today, Dr. Duffy. I want everybody to pay it forward. I want everybody to be thankful for everything that they've gotten and everything that's happened to them. Even though they're having a difficult time right now, or maybe having a difficult time, I think it would be important for them to realize that difficulties are only as far as we see them. And what I would like everybody to do is do something for their neighbor today, something they would not regularly do. Make a dozen cookies and drop them off. Go and knock on their door and give them a smile. Make sure they're okay. Make sure the world is a better place. I think at the same time, you need to pay things forward. And that's how we're going to make the world a better place as life moves on. I think the world can be a better place if each and every one of us make it our responsibility to make it a better place. And another thing they can do is make a thankfulness journal. Every day, write down 3 things that they should be glad for. Today I saw that you were on my schedule. We tried to schedule multiple times in the last 2 years, and we didn't get there. A pandemic got in the way. And finally, we were able to overcome it. And I said, thank goodness, we finally meet after all this time.
Yes. Thank goodness and hallelujah. And I'm so glad that you're coming back next week, Dr. Alan Lycka. And I wanted to ask, can we just get your book anywhere? This Dr. Alan Lycka, Lycka, and Harriet Tinka, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. And where is it available?
I'm going to do something really special for your guests today. I want everybody to go to my website, Dr. Alan Lycka, ALLEN, Lycka, LYCKA.com, and they can get a free digital copy of my book. All they have to do is just sign up for it right then and there, and they'll be able to get that free copy.
Oh, that is such a gift, Dr. Alan Lycka. So
I'd like everybody to have a fantastic day, and this is one of the ways I can help them do that. I wrote this with a lot of love, and I want people to have that love back.
Oh, I see and feel the love. And so it's Dr. Alan Lycka, and I'm sorry, what was the rest of it? Just .com? Or
.com, yeah. Dr. D-R A-L-L-E-N, Lycka, Lycka.com. And people can get a free digital copy of my book there.
Wow.
And if they would like to buy a paperback copy, it's on Amazon.com. The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, well, we have, I think, just a minute left. And is there anything, just in case people don't tune in next week, I hope you do, everyone. Is there any final thing you'd like to leave people with right now?
Again, I would like them to realize that it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. And I think that's what's important right now is people have to realize the things we do every day, the baby steps we take, the little things we do to make the world a better place, make everything so much better for everybody else. And love is one of those amazing things, Dr. Duffy. We get more love by giving love. I think that's important people realize that. And I think people should try to give in order to get.
And I also think what makes your story so important, Dr. Allen, is that you didn't take no for an answer. And you just didn't accept that was accurate, or if it was technically medically accurate, that you could be an exception. And you were very studious. You were a researcher. I mean, by profession, you're a researcher. And you just kept putting it out there in the universe. You just kept asking and kept extending yourself, kept open, kept listening. And all of these so-called coincidences of the people that you met, Harriet Tinka and David Marks, this is all because you had an inquiring mind. You were open. You didn't just roll over, Dr. Alan Lycka.
No, and I think that's important. Persistence is a large part of what we need to do. I think we need to be persistent at everything we do in our task.
Yes.
We need to do things with enthusiasm. We need to do things in such a way that we just keep on going. Yes, life is hard. Yes, life knocks us down sometimes.
Yeah.
Bad things happen to good people, but good things happen to good people who try harder.
Try harder, yes. And I think to believe that it's possible. We know it's important to get better in every way, but to believe that it's possible, I think that's the intervening variable. And so many people take so-called authorities' advice and don't try. They give up. And we can talk next week about the difference between giving up and letting go. Well, Dr. Alan Lycka, thank you so much. And I want everyone to come back next week for part 2. Dr. Alan Lycka, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, 12 Golden Pearls for Survivors to make them thrivers. And this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.